Hello again. Hey, we gotta make hay while the sun's shining, right? I just wanted to do a discussion. Something that came to mind. This is nothing. Just some thoughts. I don't know. See what you think. I've made a couple of videos lately. The one about the recent visitation with the message. You know, I'm still assimilating that. That really happened. Everything I can only, you either believe me or you don't on these, but I'm not making this up. I'd be something else if I was. There's no monetarization for this channel. I'm not looking to make a penny off it. Not human money. Doing God's work. That's it. It's quite an honor. Let the Lord pay me. I don't expect anything. Just the joy of giving glory to God is quite a payment, honestly. Alright, so I haven't really put together my thoughts. They're coming together on the visitation recently with the message. And I really got some interesting comments on that too, by the way. Now, the one I just put out, the Silver Cord of Life, the second telling of that, I told it about like 10 years ago, or maybe not quite that long. I told it again and put it on this channel. And I've got another YouTube channel. I'm not trying to betray you all. There's nothing on that channel that you don't see, all right? You don't need to tune into it. Actually, you get more on this channel. On that channel, I'm just going to tell my Christian stories. And that's it. I'm not going to talk about anything else. There won't be any beer reviews. But I got some interesting comments on that recently from some of you. And it caused me to think, to wonder. And I'm not putting any answers out here. It's just a discussion. I don't claim to have a lot of answers for these. I'll just tell you what happened. Like the recent visitation. All I can do is tell you what I experienced. You know, that's it. It's a testimony. It's mysteries. Oh, and I still got the toothache. Went to the dentist and I'm not going to go into that. At any rate, the Silver Cord of Life. I experienced it, and to my surprise, so have a few of you, at least a few or two. According to the comments, you've seen it too. And I Google it. When I first made this video, number one, what are you doing? Silly phone. Sorry. Google seems to think that I'm talking to it. Hello, Google. Hey, Google. Hello. Yeah, I've got the speaker turned off. Good. A smartphone, I'll tell you. It's there for a reason. I'm going to read something off it. I got distracted. I'm sorry. Again. Yes, when I first made this video, The Silver Cord of Life, some years ago, I Google searched Silver Cord of Life and found a handful of experiences. But you know, the web has grown and grown and grown and grown so much, even since like 7 or 8 years ago when I first made that video. If you Google Silver Cord of Life now, Google it, or YouTube search it, you're going to find not a whole lot. You're going to find a good number of other people that either have experienced it or, you know, they're putting their 2 cents out there what they think it is. And I've experienced it, and so have 2 commenters on this channel. And since you've already heard my experience, I'm going to read. You can read theirs there in the comments. I mean, it's public information now. If either of you that made these comments want me to take it down, I will. But you better not. I don't think you'd mind or you wouldn't have posted it. But yeah, I'll take it down. Alright, so in the comments here. Bebobsy. Hello. Said that they had a silver cord experience as a child. They described it as milky white, about thumb size, the same way I saw it, coming out of my chest, milky white, or ethereal, whatever you want to call it, but yes, milky white, about as big around as my thumb. Hers, she said, it had a mother of pearl gloss, and it came from her, I don't know if you're a man or woman, sorry, came from their solar plexus, and it was milky white with a mother of pearl gloss to it. I saw milky white. It came out of center there, my chest. I don't recall seeing a mother of pearl kind of gloss to it. I guess yours is better than mine. Sorry. All right, let me get serious. I'm going to read this person's comment that they made just today at 5 hours ago from the recording of this video. Had a silver cord experience as a child, milky white, about thumb size, with a mother of pearl gloss, and it came from my solar plexus. I was ill as a child. I do not know where it went, but that it left the room and turned the corner. I'll never forget it. I did not know until today that it is mentioned in the scripture, and it is in Ecclesiastes 12:6. And all right, Ecclesiastes 12:6. Thank you, they said. You're welcome. Okay, Pat Murphy, old accordion fan, said, Tim, I remember my oldest daughter, when my oldest daughter was born back in '77, I noticed that the cord attached her to me was silver. Thank you for the video. 1. Apparently they watched my first one. So here's 2 people of my viewers, and that video didn't get a whole lot of views, which is understandable because it's the second time I've made it. I expect you to sit through it, unless you want to. It's the same story. If I start changing things around, either I'm losing it or I'm not telling the truth. So there's 3 of us that have experienced pretty much the same thing, except Pat Murphy's. Her silver cord, she said, was attached between her and her child when her child was born. Let me get back to that. Make sure I read that right. I'm going to read Pat Murphy's again, because it's different from mine and the other person's, where it came out of us, and mine went up into the sky, weaved around lazy, and went up. I described that enough in the last video. The other person said it came out of their solar plexus, and it went around, and it went out the door and went somewhere. Now Pat said that when her oldest daughter was born, she noticed that the cord that attached her to her daughter was silver. I don't know if you mean the umbilical cord or something different. I suppose it would be something different. I don't know. Thank you for the video. You're welcome, Pat. You're all welcome. Thank you for your comments. So, it occurred to me. We all assume it's like a spiritual umbilical cord, don't we? I mean, it's mentioned in the Bible, Ecclesiastes 12:6 pretty much says when the cord is severed or broken, and then it goes on when the vessel is, I'm going to read that. All right, here's what the Bible says about it. And if you two and myself, us 3 have experienced this, seen this, and it's safe to assume that this is nothing new. People have seen this throughout the ages, to include back when Ecclesiastes 12:6 was written. James, or ever the silver cord be loosed, or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. 7. Then shall dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. The silver cord be loosed, severed, cut, broken. So apparently this this has been around, rare as it is, but people have experienced this. And God's word says that when that cord is severed, then the spirit returns to God, and the vessel returns back to the earth. We die to this world. The question I would pose here, I don't think any of us know the answer definitively, not in this walk. I don't. But I would ask, what is it attached to? Is it really an umbilical cord? I mean, what is it? Obviously, it's some kind of spiritual matter that belongs to the spiritual world that our souls belong to, that inhabit these vessels. And I say it's attached to us spiritually. Mine went up into the sky. One commenter connected her with her daughter. Another commenter said she was sick and in a room, and it went through the door, into a hallway or something. And I was outdoors in the woods, and mine looped around for a while like a rope, lazy, and it went straight up through the trees into the sky. I read another, here's one, this is a weird one. I actually read an account of a woman in France who had a small heart attack, and she said she was on the floor and she saw the cord come out of her. And she said the cord went through the window and it went up into the sky. And here's the strange part. This is what she said. All right, maybe I'll look it up. Maybe I'll post that if I can think to look for it. I found it on the NDERF site, NDERF, Near Death something Research Foundation, Near Death Experience Research Foundation, NDERF. Got a lot of stories on there. I've been reading them off and on through the years. And that's where I read that. She said she could look out the window. She was on the floor, presumably 1 foot in the grave, so to speak. And this rope, silver cord, whatever, milky rope came out of her and went through the window and went up into the sky. And this is the thing. She said she saw two women dressed up like, she called it old midwives or like old nurses. But two women were pulling on the rope and looking at her. That's what she said, all right? So, I don't know. I mean, I've read some accounts of it, and it's like, I don't think anybody's quite sure what it is. There's a lot of people speculate, New Age stuff, astral projection, things like that. I don't subscribe to all that. I'm not saying it's not true. I just don't subscribe to it. There's one consensus everybody seems to agree on is when that is severed, then we die to this world and we go back to heaven. So what is it attached to? It's attached to us on this end. What's it attached to on the other end? The Spirit of God, God's kingdom. What's its purpose? There's another question. I mean, I'm on earth. I mean, an umbilical cord is when, in human sense, it's the nourishment from the mother to keep the baby alive while it's, forming in the womb. Maybe that's what we're here. Maybe we're forming. We're to be born when we're done here. And they're feeding us spiritual truths. I don't know. Maybe that's what our purpose here is. In one sense, this is almost like our time in the womb. Doesn't feel like it, does it? Not with this toothache. Again. I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm just free thinking. What is the purpose of the silver cord of life? And most people don't see it. I presume everybody has one. I think you have to be teetering on a very thin veil between life and death, but somehow still awake, cognizant with these senses, but on a very thin sheet that separates. I think it probably have to be at a very precise level place to see that chord. Oh, that's good. So question is, I don't think there's any sense to ask what it's made of. It's a spirit, some kind of ecto, right? That was from Ghost Hunters. And I think that old movie with Dan Aykroyd, and I think, they coined that term ectoplasm, and it just kind of stuck. It's just a word to describe that white spiritual matter. We call it ecto, but let's see what ecto is, all right? Is it really even a word? Let me turn Google's big mouth back on. Google blab. Hey Google, what is ecto?
Here's the definition of ecto: outer, external.
Oh, right, yeah, of course, ectoskeleton, outer, external, right. Well, that is an actual word, it's Latin. Let me get a little more precise. Hey Google, what is ectoplasm?
According to Wikipedia, ectoplasm is a term used in spiritualism to denote a substance or spiritual energy exteriorized by physical mediums. It was coined in 1894 by psychical researcher Charles Richard.
Well, I was wrong about that. It wasn't. It was coined by in 1894, not the Ghostbusters. That was it, Ghostbusters. They didn't coin the term. That's the first place I heard it. Was that old? I think it was an 80s movie. But no. Ectoplasm is a term used in spiritualism to denote a substance or spiritual energy exteriorized by physical. Oh, good lordy. All right, I'm going to read this ectoplasm, all right? I told you, this is just a timblab and Google blab. Ectoplasm, from Greek ektos, outside, and plasma, something formed or molded. Ectoplasm is a term used in spiritualism to denote a substance or spiritual energy exteriorized by physical mediums. It was coined in 1894 by physical researcher Charles Richard. Although the term is widespread in popular culture, there is no scientific evidence that ectoplasm exists, and many purported examples were exposed as hoaxes fashioned from cheesecloth, gauze, or natural substances. And if you ever seen the old pictures from like 1900, all these fake spiritual mediums, they took these pictures with this like white stuff coming out of them. That's fake. You know, this town I live in was a spiritualist capital in America. This little town I'm in used to be the spiritualist hub, I think, of America, maybe the world, back around the 1880s, 1890s. Some say Mary Todd Lincoln came to this town after her husband's death to try to contact her husband and her two lost sons. And that place is full of that stuff. Right up the street from me, there's a really old brick house that was a big-time spiritualist gathering place a long time ago. 1880s, something like that. Good. I'm surprised I didn't light my tooth up. Whew. So, ectoplasm, I digress. Oh, what is it made of, right? I wouldn't call it ectoplasm. I would say it's something of the spirit world. Right. What is it attached to? We know it's attached to us. Some people purport it coming out of the top of their head, or their stomach, their midsection, a lot like myself out of their chest. And then some people get so zen brainy about it, they start trying to make it like if it comes out of this or that area, it means something else. There's a lot of kind of mystical, non-Christian interpretation of this, New Age kind of stuff that I don't follow that at all, of course, but I'm not here to say that they're wrong either. I'm just saying it's not my creed. I mean, I will say they're wrong if they say that Christ is not the Lord, things like that. But I can't tell you exactly what that is for. It's attached to us, and it's a spiritual connection. Like with Pat Murphy, it connected her with her daughter years ago when she was born, and with me and the other Bobby's commenter, it came out of us when we were very ill, and mine went up into the sky, and hers went out her room and out through the door. So what's it attached to on the other end? That French woman, I just read that account. She said that there was some women up in the clouds, like smiling, cheerful looking women that had hold of it like a rope, 2 women. I'd have to look that up now. It's kind of hard to find things. I read that a few years back. If you really are interested in that, there's actually quite a few accounts of it if you look. Another 2 that I read, other people's experiences. They were like myself. They were like having a small heart attack. I think that's what was happening to me. And they didn't die from it. And they were laying there on the ground exhausted. This one guy was a biker, and he was having a few drinks in a bar, and he was not feeling well, and he went out to his motorcycle and sat down and kind of went back, kind of like myself, and that's when he saw it. I'm going to read some accounts. Bear with me I'm alone, and this is how I'm choosing to spend my night tonight, just discussing this mysterious thing. I can tell you, I do have one conclusion about it, one thing I can say about it. And hopefully I don't forget it, because I watch these videos, and sometimes I make boo-boos. I say things, and I'm like, oh man, what am I saying, This isn't scripted. I'm like, did I have a Brandon moment? Sorry, I'm getting political. But like, I just flub up some words or get something totally wrong. If it's bad enough, I won't post a video. But if it's something where I think most of you'll know, I'm just going on, then I won't make it, because I think you all are mature enough to know that what I meant. I'm looking something up. And while I'm looking that up, I'll tell you one thing I can tell you that I do believe this means. There is an order, there's a reason for us here. I mean, we have an umbilical cord, a silver cord of life, as Ecclesiastes calls it. It's obvious Ecclesiastes is speaking about the same thing. I believe Solomon wrote that. Hey Google, who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes?
Trevor Longman wrote the book of Ecclesiastes.
No, he didn't. Tremper Longman, they got a picture of him. Looks like he's about my age with a suit and tie on. Hey Google, who wrote the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible?
King Solomon. According to Wikipedia, according to rabbinic tradition, Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon in his old age, but critical scholars have long rejected the idea of a pre-exilic origin.
King Solomon wrote it. I don't care what the scholars say. They're probably atheists. So while I was looking for that, how do I research this? Search. Okay. I agree to the terms. Simplified page. Bear with me. This could take a few minutes. I live in a valley, and the internet here is off and on. You got it some days, and some days you don't. Down in the valley where the green grass grows. That's where I live. Down in the green valley. I took a picture of the valley from a hilltop the other day. Here it is. Here's a picture of that. That's where I live, down in there somewhere. For now. Come on, load up. All right. Picture off. All right. All right, back on. Hopefully I edited that out. I've been looking around for other people's accounts of it. And most of them are on YouTube as a video, and I'm not going to put those in. The silver cord, this is on a site on neardeath.com. Yeah, neardeath.com. The silver cord and in near-death experiences. And I suppose that myself and the person who commented that they were very ill as a child and in bed and saw it, we were probably close to death, both of us, at that time, but it wasn't our time yet. Not yet. All right, this is how neardeath.com describes Introduction to the Silver Cord. The silver cord has been described as being smooth, very long, very bright, like an elastic cable made of light, about 1 inch wide, sparkling like a tinsel on a Christmas tree, and attached to one of several possible locations on the physical body. During the dying process, as the spirit body leaves the physical body and moves farther away from it, the silver cord becomes thinner as it's stretched to its limit and becomes severed. When this occurs, the spirit body is released from being attached to the physical body. At this point, it becomes impossible for the spirit body to ever return to the physical body. Now, I didn't see it shimmering or sparkling or glittering, and neither did the other two people on this site. All right, this isn't really telling me anything here. I was hoping to find some other accounts. Religious significance. All right, that's a mystic. I'm not going to read that. I don't know, have any of you ever heard of Edgar Cayce? He was an American mystic, a Christian, a devout Christian. He lived like, I don't know the exact dates, like 1880 to maybe 1950 or something like that. Edgar Cayce, he was an interesting person. He did some healings, and he also saw angels and ghosts and things. And he wound up making a living off it. Though he initially said he didn't want to be that way, but okay. Edgar Cayce. While preparing to undergo one of his otherworldly journeys, Edgar Cayce had lost consciousness and had a dream. Usually he would travel through a tunnel towards the light, but in this instance he met the angel of death and learned about the silver cord. The following is his experience described in his own words, Edgar Cayce. And I believe him. I honestly think he was a very honest man. Very fantastic. Some of my stories are very fantastic. And I believe I'm a very honest man too. As I went out, I had realized that I had contacted death as a personality, as an individual, or as a being. Realizing this, I remarked to death, "You are not as ordinarily pictured with a black mask or a hood or as a skeleton, or like Father Time with a sickle. Instead, you are fair, rose-cheeked, robust, and you have a pair of shears or scissors. In fact, I had to look twice at the feet or the limbs or even the body to see it take shape." The angel of death replied, "Yes, death is not what many seem to think. It's not the horrible thing which is often pictured. It's just a change, just a visit. The shears or scissors are indeed the implements most representative of life and death to man. These indeed unite by dividing and divide by uniting." I'll read that again. "These indeed unite by dividing and divide by uniting. The cord does not, as usually thought, extend from the center, but is broken from the head, the forehead, that is the soft portion we see pulsate in the infant. Hence we see old people, unbeknownst to them, gain strength from youth by kissing there, And youth gains wisdom by such kisses on a baby's forehead where the crown hasn't developed yet. That's a new one to me. Indeed, the vibrations may be raised to such an extent as to rekindle or reconnect the cord, even as the Master did with the son of the widow of Nain. For he did not take him by the hand which was bound to the body, as was the custom of the day, but rather stroked him on the head, and the body took life of life itself. So you see, the silver cord may be broken, but in vibration. And he says, I saw a long silver cord coming out of my spirit body, right through the cheesecloth like fabric I was wearing. The cord extended down and out in front of me, and as I turned around, I saw that the silver cord draped around and behind me, like an umbilical cord. It followed it through to the hallway walls. Hey, that's the one person said it went out of him and through the door, and that's what he's saying here. If I followed it through the two hallway walls and into my den, where I saw it attached to the back of the head of my physical body. See, Casey used to have these out-of-body experiences where he would tell people what they need to do to heal themselves. And people would come to him, and he'd lay on his couch, and he'd go into a deep trance, and he would leave his body sometimes in that trance while he was laying on the couch, and he would come back and tell these people what they need to do to be healed, or their problems. So the cord was about 1 inch wide and sparkled like Christmas tree tinsel. As soon as I saw that silver cord was attached to my physical body, my spirit was thrust into a dark tunnel. All right, so that's Edgar Cayce's, and he was a man that lived roughly about 100 years ago in his heyday. I think born. Hey Google, when did Edgar Cayce, when was he born and died?
Here are some results.
1877, and he died in 1945. So I was pretty well close. I read his book a few years ago. All right, so Sylvan Muldoon's, my ex. Yeah, sorry. Sylvan Muldoon, first conscience projection occurred when he was 12 years old. He awoke in the middle of the night to find himself conscious, but not knowing where he was. He apparently unable to move, a condition he later called astral catalepsy. Gradually, the sensation of floating took over, and then a rapid up and drawn vibration and tremendous pressure in the back of his head. Out of this nightmare of sensations, the boy's hearing gradually began to return, and then his sight, for which he could see that he was floating in a room above his bed. Some force took hold of him and pulled him down from horizontal to vertical. He saw his double lying quietly asleep in the bed, and between the two of them stretched an elastic-like cable which joined the back of the head of his conscious self to a spot between his eyes and the body and bed, 6 feet or so away. Swaying and pulling against the cord, Muldoon tried to walk another room to wake up someone, but found that he had passed right through the door and through the bodies of 2 sleepers too. When he tried to shake or clutch them, he passed right through them. Frightened, he roamed around the house for what seemed like 15 minutes, and then slowly the pull of the cord increased, and he found himself being pulled back to his body. Everything went in reverse. All right, these are quite different. Because mine went up into the sky, so did The Woman in France, so did a couple other ones I read. I hope I haven't wasted your time with this. It's like I said, you're going to get all kinds of explanations for it. These people said it came out of their head. And mine was my chest, and solar plexus for the other commenter here, and everybody else I read, it came out of their midsection. You're going to read all kinds of accounts on the silver cord of life, and each one has a lot of things in common and some things different. Yeah, it does, because Pat Murphy's connected her with her daughter when she was born. And this last one I read, it connected them, their soul, to their body. And another one, Casey's, it connected his soul to his body. But mine was connected to something up in the sky. And the other one, commenter on her, their cord was connected, who knows where it went. It left the room and it went out the hallway, presumably. Don't know where it was connected. So, I don't know, I guess I just put more mystery on it. But the one answer I get, I hope I didn't waste your time with this, really kind of question whether I'm even going to put this out there. It does exist. I've seen it. So have several other people. 2 other people on this site have had it happen. I'm sure if I went back and read the comments from 8 years ago when I first made it, I would get other people's, comments on it, experiences. But when we're on this earth, we're not just put here and forgotten about. There's purpose here, and I think our caretaker in heaven, our Lord, is very, very keen on what's going on with us. We're precious to Him. We're precious. And I can't answer this thing about the silver cord, what it is, what it's attached to. It's different. Some people, it just attaches their spirit to their body, and other people, it goes from their body and out, up. In one case, she says the umbilical was silver between her and her daughter. I'm not sure if it was the umbilical cord she's talking about or a different cord. There's all kinds of Edgar Casey. He said he met the angel of death who had a pair of scissors, who I guess used it to cut the cord, kind of like somebody would at childbirth. I think, like I said, I was just free thinking on this whole period of time here. And the only conclusion I can come up with is it's comforting to know that, we're here for a little while, but our spirits, we've got caretakers. And they know what we're going through, and they didn't just put us down here and forget about us. I think it shows an organization and a spiritual journey, a development, and attached things are made a certain way for a reason. And it is mentioned in the Bible, the silver cord of life, when it's severed. So it is biblical. Not much was written about it other than the Bible says when the cord is broken or loose, then the spirit goes back. We go to heaven to our Maker, and the body goes into the dust where it came from. I think that much everybody agrees on in this, pretty much. But as for like myself and a few others where the silver cord was attached, went from my body up into the sky, what was it attached to? Was my spirit up in the sky and my body was left back on earth? I didn't feel like I had an out-of-body experience at all. I mean, I was sitting there out of it, but I was actually messed around with it a little bit briefly just to verify I was seeing what I was seeing, and I saw it quite clearly. You couldn't miss it. It looked pretty solid, white, milky white, but solid. And it looked like it could have been an umbilical cord. It had kind of a lazy, droopy whine to it, and went up. What was it attached to? I don't know. It kind of freaked me out. I mean, if I didn't know the Bible as well as I did, I knew about Ecclesiastes, Silver Cord of Life. I don't know what I would have thought. You know, I probably would have like, wow. You know, yeah. Well, when you are sick and you're having something like this happen, you know that you're pretty ill and you're on the cusp of death. And you're not going to go, wow. You're not in that frame of mind. I've never read a single account of it yet where somebody was acting like that. They were surprised because it's serious. It's as serious as death. You know, you can't really, that kind of shoots all pretenses down, doesn't it? You can't sit there and act cool when you're dying. Some people may try, but if you see something like this, you know you're on the cusp of leaving this whole world behind forever, I guess. This has been a lot of timblab and to some extent Google blab. You know, I use this as Google. I mean, I've just started using this. But it generally is right. I mean, I know when it's off target. But it hasn't really thrown me wrong yet. And I think I'd rather do that than print off some paper and stuff. I guess, yeah, I tried to just putting free thought out there. What is it attached to? What is the purpose of the cord of life? Is it to sustain us spiritually? Is it a tether? Maybe it's not an umbilical cord. Maybe it really is a tether, like a rope that holds us to something. Or maybe it's an umbilical cord that feeds us some way, you know, spiritually or whatever. I mean, it's called a cord in the Bible, but then so is an umbilical cord which feeds us. But then again, so is a cord or a tether that binds things. So it could be either, it could be both. You know? You know? You know? I don't know. I don't know. But on most of these things, I just described to you what I experienced. I'm not going to go out on a limb and try to tell you definitively what it is, unless I really think I know. And if I do, I'll take a shot at it, but I don't know. So there you have it. I just tried to take that topic of the silver cord of life and open it up a little bit, because it was good to see that I'm not the only one on this channel that has experienced it. At least 2 others have, and possibly more. And then there's a lot of other people right through the ages, up to the years at least of King Solomon, that have seen the silver cord of life. It's part of our, to me, it tells me, it gives me kind of a little more sense of assurance that we weren't just randomly put here on this planet for some kind of, you know, like seeding a pond with guppies, you know. No, we were placed here with a purpose. We're placed here with a purpose, and it just kind of, it's a mystery, but it's kind of part of the organization of us being placed here and cared for, even though we suffer and we die, and as do the ones we love. But we were put here with a purpose, and it's not just some random poof, here we are. No, just part of the whole order of us, our existence, and who put us here, and how they arranged that we would have this silver cord for whatever purpose it is. So there you have it. Any thoughts, comments? I always like reading them and try to get back eventually. I plan to do a follow-up also on that experience I had a little over a week ago at this point with the visitation with the message That was kind of, for me, quite a powerful event for me. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind what it was and who it was. And I'm grateful to God for it, and I'm grateful to that person as well. And I don't know why it's been placed on me to be this kind of spiritual person. I don't know. It just seems to, I don't know. I tell you one thing. When I was younger, people used to think it was cool, my stories, because these things have happened my whole life. Now as I get older, more and more people just think I'm strange and like, ick. It's strange enough that I live alone. Most people who know me, they consider me a very good person around here locally. But I think there's always somebody, when some guy lives alone. Most people know I lived here with somebody when I moved here and she died. So they know that. But I've been alone for a while, and I think loners are always a little suspect. But then if you hear, I tell people my stories like I'm telling you, and some people look at me like I've got a few screws loose. Most people don't. Some people will look at me and say they've never experienced that, but they believe it. They believe what I'm saying because they've heard they believe it. Some people will say they definitely believe what I'm saying and they've got their own stories. And then you got other people that will just kind of look at you and what's the look? Somebody that knew my friend Jen, my dear one, and I told him I saw her. She appeared to me. Told me I need to move on. I thought they would. No, this person, I forgot, they don't believe in that stuff at all. Even though their father was a minister, he was a very spiritual person. I know the father. This guy doesn't. A very nice guy, but he just looked at me and just like, he gave me a look, which really made me feel, all right, don't tell anymore, yeah. So, I try to tell people about these things. I try to bring God into it, as it should be brought in. God should be brought into these things. It's my testimony, and I tell people about Christ too, not just these stories. Now, they need Jesus Christ, and I do tell people that. They know that. So the silver cord of life, it's in the Bible. If you really research it, you'd probably find historical accounts of it, just like the one in Casey, that's over 100 years old. So it's been around. What is it? What's it attached to? What's the purpose of it? There's a lot of speculation on that from all different angles. But I say again, I think it just reinforces to me that we're put here for a reason, just like you put your child, you take care of your baby, you know what I mean? And you keep an eye on your child and your baby and make sure that they're safe and they're not going to leave until you're ready for them to come home. And I don't know. It just shows me more of an order and a structure between our spiritual keepers and home and who we are here and now. That much I think is a takeaway for me on the silver cord of life. The rest, all right, if you stuck around this long for this much timblab, I'm going to have to edit some of it out. I mean, some of it was just, I was trying to find stuff on stories and I really couldn't find much good, usable. So, all right, that's it for that. I plan to make one on the visitation and the message, but I need a little more time to ruminate on that and pray over it. See what lessons can be drawn from these lessons to be learned from these things. It's one thing just to say this happened and that happened, but things like this, the visitation and the message, there's actually a lot of things you can draw from that, spiritual lessons. And same with the silver cord. There are lessons to be gleaned out of that than just taken at face value. So thank you for your comments, each of you, and God bless each of you in your daily walks, and pray for each other, encourage one another as we are told to do, and forgive one another. Take care.